Harvard already responding to this news, saying it's illegal. We could anticipate some kind of battle royale through the courts. But for now, we wish you the best. Secretary Noem, thanks so much for joining us with this.
Tell them to bring it. I'm on the side of America, and they need to be too.
Harvard has once again sued the Trump administration, this time over the ban on allowing new foreign students because of the fact that they have told Harvard, we're going to start revoking these things until you get the anti-Semitism under control on campus.
That's right. So this is under the program, the Student and Exchange Visitor Program, which a university has to be certified for through the Department of Homeland Security and ICE in order to enroll students on student visas. So these are non-citizens that are coming to the United States for university programs or even employment programs. So it could even be professors, but it's the Student Exchange and Visitor Program. And Kristi Noem sent a letter to Harvard yesterday, making them aware that they are now decertified. And what this means in practicality is that they cannot enroll any new students on student visas, but also existing aliens on F or J non-immigrant status must transfer to another university in order to maintain that visa. And they are saying that this goes back to even April, when the Department of Homeland Security asked for multiple things under looking into the anti-Semitism on campus, the safe environment that they're promoting on campus, and that Harvard was not complying. And then they even multiple times asked for this information again, pertaining to non-immigrant students enrolled at Harvard, including information regarding to misconduct and other offenses that would render these students inadmissible or removable. They didn't comply. They had multiple opportunities to, and as a consequence, Harvard has now been decertified by the Department of Homeland Security. But the DHS also gave an opportunity for them to get recertified before the next academic year by complying with a list of information within 72 hours. Harvard has decided to sue. Instead of complying with the federal government of turning over information on individuals that are here that may have been conducting nefarious activities on a student visa, Harvard has decided to just sue the administration to try to block this instead of trying to help the administration root out bad actors.
Well, Harry Hutchinson's joining us. Harry, I think we need to be nuanced here. I think we need to be talking about it because it's not just about what we like, what we hear. Sure, they're going to be blocking. They're standing up for the Jewish students, for the students that are feel like they're being persecuted, feel like they are being attacked on campuses. And of course, this comes on the heels of that assassination. But I do think we need to talk about the legality and whether where's really the road for this.
I think that's a brilliant question. So I think the real issue here is that the Department of Homeland Security, in their letter blocking Harvard's participation in this student exchange program, they went too far. So if you read it carefully, it says the DHS is essentially excluding Harvard. Why? Because of an unsafe environment that is hostile to Jewish students, that Harvard promotes a pro-Hamas sympathy on campus and employs DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. So I think the latter part of the DHS letter has simply gone too far. And so what does that do? It means that the good parts of the DHS letter with respect to protecting Jewish students can be safely ignored by a sympathetic district court judge. And I think that is precisely what has happened here.
And so we did just get this order granting the plaintiff's motion for a temporary restraining order. Remember, this revocation letter went out last night from the Department of Homeland Security. Harvard filed their lawsuit this morning, and they already got the TRO from the judge. I think maybe you can read into some of that what is in their complaint, particularly maybe saying they don't like policies that don't have to do with national security, yet the Department of Homeland Security is taking away this. It does raise the question of something that we fight against here very often, of viewpoint discrimination. If that is based off of them not liking a viewpoint discrimination, taking away something that has been given to them could be seen as retaliatory and unconstitutional in that manner. But you also have on the same side of this that what you brought up, that much of it has to do with them trying to get information about the violation of civil rights of American students that are Jewish on campus at Harvard. And the federal government has a responsibility to weigh in when the civil rights of students are being violated under many sections of U.S. code. So when you look at this, Professor Hutchison, there is on the one hand, it can be a First Amendment free speech argument by the plaintiff here, but also the civil rights violations. Also, you can punish a university that is not protecting Jewish students. Being pro-Hamas isn't just being pro-liberal or pro a political ideology that you disagree with. Being pro-Hamas is being pro-foreign designated terrorist organization, and it also leads to the kind of violence that we saw, sadly, just less than 48 hours ago in Washington, D.C., where two members of the diplomatic staff of Israel were murdered senselessly in the streets of D.C.
I think you framed your question perfectly. So I think protecting the civil rights of Jewish students at Harvard should be a paramount consideration for the Department of Homeland Security. Protecting national security should be a paramount consideration. However, with respect to diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, we can argue that they are harmful, but they are not necessarily a national security threat. So by including that statement in its letter, I think the Department of Homeland Security has provided a basis for a judge to intervene. And if you look at the history of judicial intervention against the Trump administration, approximately two-thirds of all district court injunctions in U.S. history have been issued against Donald Trump and his administration. So I think it was a mistake, this is just my opinion, by the Department of Homeland Security to include that language, because that provided a basis for judicial intervention.
And that's really what we look at. I'm seeing some of the comments going, well, why can't you guys rewrite it? Can you get involved? Can you do something? Because our team does think a little bit differently. And look, I'm sure putting in some of those buzzwords from a marketing point of view is a good idea. But when it comes down to the law, sometimes decisions need to be made that are important so actual movement can happen. And like you said, you don't fall into some trap. You don't go and make these broad statements because they sound good. But then when it comes down to, again, what is legal and what is not legal, which is what we're talking about here, again, even if you agree or disagree with it, how the judicial system works, they'll step in it and have some issues.
I do want to respond to a comment on Rumble that said they are not pro-Hamas, they are for a free Palestine. There is a huge difference. That's what we seek to debunk just about every time we talk about this issue on this broadcast.
You can say the same about the guy who murdered the people in the streets. You know, technically he didn't say, yay, Hamas.
He said free Palestine.
And then murdered two people and then lied about it. You know, tried to seek comfort until he had to fess up. This is what's happening. Again, you're right that we are trying to show that there isn't much of a difference here, that it all comes from the same source. Now, it doesn't mean we don't feel for the people in Gaza. Doesn't mean we don't support the humanitarian relief that I think they need. Absolutely. But there is a systemic problem with that area of the world that has, and look, that's not like me saying something. That is a verifiable truth for the thousands of years. But really more recently, you could say even the last 100 years or so.
And I think that if this individual really wants to hear more about that, go watch yesterday's broadcast. It's on Rumble, on YouTube, plenty of places to find it. And you'll hear a larger discussion about how what is happening on those campuses is not a free Palestine movement. It is a pro-Hamas movement the leadership of Hamas are celebrating it
And it's paying
on media.
Look who's paying for these protests. Look who's paying for them to happen. You may say that individual student doesn't really understand. And look, I think largely that's true because I meet and talk with a lot of people, and I'm always trying to have open-minded conversations. Even with some people yesterday who were telling me, you understand though, they didn't kill them because they were Jewish, and one of them wasn't even. They go through all these things. They're killed because they worked for a country that they feel is wrong. They're resistance fighters. I have to put my brain aside for a second to not just want to jump through my phone when I'm talking to people. But I do try to break it down. I do try to go to the next level of that conversation because usually it falls apart very quickly because they don't really know. Because what they're being fed is talking points. They're going to these protests and they don't even know what they're protesting, and they certainly don't know who is funding it. And if they do know who's funding it, then that's a bigger issue. And that's some of the things that the Trump administration maybe should be looking at and talking about in this is the funding, because a lot of this is coming from places like the Muslim Brotherhood, who are actually funding the protest on these college campuses.
I think that is precisely correct. And I think that is basically an object lesson for the Trump administration. Focus on the real enemy, the real target. And with respect to this specific letter by DHS, the real enemy, the real target is anti-Jewish conduct on the campus of Harvard. That's where the DHS should focus its ammunition.
We're going to go ahead.
Oh, I was going to add to that as well. Is if you look back at the history of things like the Muslim Student Association and things that are student groups on university campuses, they were directly funded in the American branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. Mm-hmm. So if you want to start talking about the broader real issue, it is a lot of foreign funding from radical groups that they don't just target the United States writ large. They go to the universities and they target the students. So this individual can say that they're for Palestine, not for Hamas. But reality is we know a lot about the history. We've been studying it and working with it for a very long time. And that is the truth of the matter.
We are so excited to announce the ACLJ's brand new app, completely redesigned to provide you with the best tools available to partner with us at the ACLJ. You can watch the daily Secular program, sign the petitions, customize your ACLJ membership experience, donate with the click of a button, and receive up-to-the-minute critical updates that the mainstream media can't censor. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to your phone's app store, search ACLJ, and click install. It's that simple.